Guerrilla Marketing and Controversy, What Businesses Can Learn. Welcome to an essential exploration of one of marketing's most provocative strategies, guerrilla marketing and its relationship with controversy. In today's oversaturated digital landscape, businesses are under immense pressure to break through the noise and capture consumer attention in increasingly creative ways. Guerrilla marketing offers bold, unconventional tactics that promise to cut through the clutter and create memorable brand experiences. But here's the critical question every marketer must ask: at what cost? The line between attention-grabbing brilliance and brand-damaging controversy has never been thinner or more consequential. In this presentation, we'll dive deep into the complex world of guerrilla marketing, examining real-world case studies that illustrate both spectacular successes and catastrophic failures. We'll explore the psychological principles that make controversial marketing so powerful, analyze the risks that can destroy brands overnight, and provide you with a strategic framework for navigating these treacherous waters. Whether you're a startup looking to make a splash or an established brand considering bolder tactics, understanding these principles isn't just helpful, it's essential for survival in today's competitive marketplace. By the end of this presentation, you'll have the tools to evaluate whether guerrilla marketing aligns with your brand strategy and how to execute it responsibly if you choose to proceed. Let's begin by examining a recent incident that perfectly illustrates both the power and peril of controversial marketing. When marketing stunts go viral, the WNBA. Let me share a recent incident that perfectly encapsulates the double-edged nature of controversial marketing. The WNBA recently found itself at the center of a media firestorm when sex toys were thrown onto the court during a game, an unprecedented incident that immediately sparked intense debate across social media platforms and news outlets worldwide. Now, while the true origin of this incident remains unclear, whether it was random fan behavior or an intentional guerrilla marketing stunt, the controversy it generated raises fundamental questions that every marketer must consider. Was this helpful publicity for women's basketball, bringing much-needed attention to a league that often struggles for mainstream coverage? Did it undermine the league's reputation and integrity, potentially damaging years of work to establish credibility? And perhaps most importantly, does such controversy ultimately help or harm a brand's long-term objectives? Within hours of the incident, footage flooded social media platforms, creating trending hashtags and generating unprecedented attention for the WNBA. The league suddenly found itself discussed in mainstream media outlets, sports talk shows, and digital platforms in ways it rarely experiences. However, not all stakeholders were pleased with this form of exposure, and the incident sparked immediate debate about appropriate marketing boundaries and brand integrity in professional sports. This case study perfectly illustrates the central tension in controversial marketing. The ability to generate massive attention comes with unpredictable consequences that can extend far beyond the initial campaign period. As we'll explore throughout this presentation, understanding this dynamic is crucial for any brand considering bold marketing tactics. Is all publicity good publicity? This brings us to one of marketing's oldest and most debated adages: all publicity is good publicity. This belief has driven countless marketing decisions, but is it actually true in today's hyperconnected world? Let's examine this question from three critical perspectives. The traditional argument suggests that any attention, even negative, increases brand awareness and ultimately benefits the organization by keeping it in the public consciousness. This philosophy assumes that awareness automatically translates to consideration and that consumers will eventually forget negative associations while retaining brand recognition. For decades, this approach seemed to work, particularly in less connected eras when public attention was harder to capture and negative sentiment was harder to sustain. However, modern reality tells a different story. Extensive research now shows that brand reputation directly impacts consumer trust, loyalty, and purchase decisions in measurable ways. In our age of social media, negative associations can permanently damage a brand's standing, creating lasting impressions that influence consumer behavior for years. The internet's long memory means that controversial moments can be easily referenced and reshared, making recovery from reputation damage increasingly difficult. The context factor reveals that the impact of controversial publicity depends heavily on several variables: your brand's positioning in the market, your target audience's values and tolerance for controversy, and your pre-existing reputation. What might work brilliantly for an edgy, youth-focused brand could completely destroy a conservative, family-oriented company. The same tactic that generates positive buzz in one demographic might create lasting alienation in another. As one industry expert noted, in today's hyper-connected world, brands must consider not just the immediate attention a stunt might generate, but the lasting impression it leaves with their core audience. This shift in perspective is fundamental to understanding modern controversial marketing. The upside: potential benefits of controversial marketing. Despite the risk we've discussed, controversial marketing continues to attract brands because the potential benefits can be extraordinary. Let's examine the quantified advantages that make these tactics so tempting for marketers seeking maximum impact. First, there's the attention multiplier effect. Controversial campaigns typically generate up to 10 times more media coverage than conventional marketing efforts. This exponential increase in visibility can be particularly valuable for smaller brands with limited advertising budgets, allowing them to compete with much larger competitors for share of voice in the marketplace. Second, controversial content creates significantly higher brand recall. Research indicates that consumers are 67% more likely to remember brands associated with surprising or controversial content compared to standard advertising messages. This enhanced memorability can translate into long-term brand awareness advantages that extend far beyond the initial campaign period. Third, there's the social sharing amplification. Provocative content gets shared approximately 3 times more frequently than standard promotional material across all social media platforms. This organic amplification can dramatically extend campaign reach without requiring additional media spend, creating viral effects that money can't buy through traditional advertising. Finally, there's the earned media value opportunity. Well-executed controversial stunts can generate millions of dollars in earned media coverage without any additional advertising spend. When news outlets, influencers, and social media users discuss your campaign, you're essentially receiving free advertising across multiple channels simultaneously. These metrics explain why marketers are often tempted by controversial tactics. The potential for exponential reach at minimal cost is genuinely alluring, especially in an era of rising advertising costs and declining organic reach. However, as we'll explore next, these benefits must be carefully weighed against significant risks that can have lasting consequences for your brand. The downside: when guerrilla marketing backfires. While the potential benefits of controversial marketing are compelling, the risks are equally significant and often more lasting than anticipated. Understanding these downsides is crucial for making informed decisions about your marketing strategy. Brand trust erosion represents one of the most serious risks. Controversial stunts can permanently damage relationships with loyal customers who feel their trust has been violated or their values disrespected. Unlike awareness, which can be rebuilt through advertising, trust takes years to develop and can be destroyed overnight. Once lost, customer trust is extraordinarily difficult to recover, often requiring complete brand repositioning and substantial investment. Audience alienation is another critical concern. Polarizing tactics may resonate powerfully with some demographics while completely alienating others, particularly when campaigns conflict with core audience values. This creates a problematic situation where you might gain attention from people who aren't your customers while losing support from those who are. The mathematics of this exchange rarely work in the brand's favor. Financial consequences extend far beyond immediate reputation damage. Inappropriate marketing can trigger organized boycotts, legal action, regulatory penalties, and significant revenue losses that persist long after the controversy fades. These costs often far exceed any savings from the low-cost nature of guerrilla marketing tactics. Perhaps most challenging is the loss of message control. Once controversial content goes viral, brands lose complete control of the narrative as public interpretation and media coverage take over. Your intended message becomes irrelevant as others define what your campaign means, often in ways that directly contradict your objectives. A perfect example is the Aqua Teen Hunger Force marketing stunt in Boston, where LED character displays were mistaken for explosive devices, triggering bomb scares throughout the city. This resulted in a $2 million settlement, criminal charges for the marketers involved, and lasting damage to the brand's reputation. The campaign intended to create buzz instead created public panic and legal liability that haunted the brand for years. Success stories. Guerrilla marketing done right. Not all guerrilla marketing ends in disaster. Let's examine 3 campaigns that successfully generated massive attention while maintaining brand integrity and creating positive associations. IKEA's living room takeovers transformed ordinary public bus stops into cozy, fully furnished living room displays. Commuters could actually sit on real IKEA furniture while waiting for transportation, creating memorable, shareable moments that perfectly aligned with the brand's identity of accessible home furnishing. Why did this work? The stunt was completely consistent with IKEA's brand values, enhanced their core message about bringing comfort to everyday spaces, and created positive experiences without causing any disruption to daily life. Coca-Cola's Happiness Machine campaign placed special vending machines in high-traffic areas that dispense not just beverages but flowers, pizza, and other unexpected surprises to delighted passers-by. The interactions were filmed and shared across social media, creating viral content centered on joy and human connection. This campaign succeeded because it was emotionally uplifting, designed specifically for both in-person delight and online sharing, and perfectly reinforced Coca-Cola's brand promise of bringing happiness to consumers. The ALS Ice Bucket Challenge demonstrates how community-driven guerrilla marketing can achieve extraordinary results. This simple, engaging activity spread organically across social media, ultimately raising over $115 million for ALS research while creating one of the most successful viral campaigns in history. The campaign worked because it had clear, cause-driven objectives paired with an interactive, social media-friendly format that encouraged participation rather than passive consumption. These successful campaigns share several common elements that distinguish them from failures. They were authentic to their respective brands, created genuinely positive experiences for participants, and were designed with both physical impact and digital shareability in mind. Most importantly, they enhanced, rather than contradicted, their brand's core messages and values. Cautionary Tales when guerrilla marketing implodes. Learning from failures is often more instructive than studying successes. Let's examine 3 spectacular guerrilla marketing disasters that illustrate exactly how things can go catastrophically wrong. Snapple's melting popsicle disaster attempted to create the world's largest popsicle in New York City as a publicity stunt. However, the 17.5-ton frozen treat melted prematurely due to unexpected warm weather, flooding surrounding streets with sticky liquid and requiring emergency cleanup crews. The result was overwhelmingly negative press, public nuisance complaints, and substantial cleanup costs that far exceeded any positive publicity generated. The lesson here is clear. Always consider all logistical factors and potential environmental variables that could turn your stunt into a public safety hazard. The Aqua Teen Hunger Force bomb scare involved placing LED character displays across Boston to promote the animated series. However, these electronic devices were mistaken for explosive devices, triggering citywide panic and a massive emergency response involving bomb squads and law enforcement. The consequences were severe: $2 million in fines, criminal charges for the marketers involved, and lasting brand damage that overshadowed the show itself. This case demonstrates the critical importance of considering how your marketing might be misinterpreted in different contexts, especially in security-conscious environments. Pepsi's Kendall Jenner protest ad attempted to create a unifying message during a period of intense social justice movements. However, the advertisement depicted Jenner solving police protester tensions by simply offering a police officer a Pepsi, trivializing serious social issues for commercial gain. The global backlash was immediate and severe, forcing Pepsi to pull the ad within 24 hours and issue multiple apologies. This failure illustrates the dangers of attempting to capitalize on serious social movements without understanding their deeper significance or showing appropriate respect for the issues involved. As one marketing expert observed, the line between brilliant and disastrous guerrilla marketing is often thinner than marketers realize. Planning for worst-case scenarios is essential. These failures could have been prevented with more thorough risk assessment and scenario planning. Strategic framework: navigating guerrilla marketing risks. Based on our analysis of both successes and failures, here's a comprehensive strategic framework for evaluating and executing guerrilla marketing while minimizing risks. First, know your audience thoroughly. Research audience values, sensitivities, and expectations before planning any controversial campaign. What resonates powerfully with one demographic may completely alienate another. Conduct surveys, focus groups, and social listening to understand not just what your audience likes, but what they find offensive or inappropriate. This research investment can save you from costly mistakes. Second, stay brand aligned at all times. Ensure your guerrilla tactics authentically connect to your brand's mission, personality, and existing messaging. Forced or disconnected stunts diminish credibility and confuse consumers about what your brand represents. Ask yourself, does this campaign feel like something our brand would naturally do? Third, anticipate worst-case scenarios comprehensively. Conduct thorough risk assessments and develop contingency plans for every possible negative outcome. Have crisis communication strategies ready before launching, not after problems emerge. Consider legal implications, safety concerns, potential misinterpretations, and unintended consequences across all possible contexts. Fourth, create shareable experiences that work across channels. Design campaigns with both physical impact and digital shareability in mind. The most successful guerrilla marketing creates positive, memorable moments that people genuinely want to talk about and share with others. Focus on delight rather than shock value. Fifth, consider ethics and perception from multiple viewpoints. Push creative boundaries without crossing ethical lines or violating public trust. Ask yourself, how might this be perceived by someone with different values, experiences, or cultural background than our target audience? Consider not just your intended audience, but all potential audiences who might encounter your campaign. Finally, Measure success holistically beyond surface metrics. Look beyond reach and engagement numbers to analyze sentiment, brand perception changes, and actual conversion impacts. A campaign that generates millions of impressions but damages brand sentiment is not successful, regardless of its viral reach. Making the decision: is guerrilla marketing right for your brand? Before embarking on any guerrilla marketing campaign, you need to honestly assess where your brand sits on this strategic matrix that evaluates two critical dimensions: your brand positioning and your audience's risk tolerance. The vertical axis represents your brand positioning, ranging from conservative to edgy. Conservative brands typically emphasize tradition, reliability, and stability in their messaging, while edgy brands position themselves as innovative, rebellious, or cutting edge. Your position on this spectrum significantly influences how much creative freedom you have in your marketing approach. The horizontal axis represents your audience's risk tolerance, their willingness to accept and even celebrate controversial or unexpected marketing approaches. Some audiences actively seek brands that push boundaries and challenge conventions, while others prefer consistency and predictability in their brand relationships. Brands in the upper right quadrant, edgy positioning with high audience risk tolerance, have the most freedom to pursue controversial tactics. These brands can often get away with bold moves that would destroy more conservative competitors. Think of brands like Red Bull, Supreme, or Patagonia, whose audiences expect and appreciate boundary-pushing marketing. Conversely, brands in the lower left quadrant, conservative positioning with low audience risk tolerance, should exercise extreme caution with any unconventional marketing tactics. For these brands, the risks almost always outweigh the potential benefits. Think of financial institutions, healthcare providers, or luxury brands whose audiences value stability and trust above innovation. The mixed quadrants represent more complex decisions. Conservative brands with risk-tolerant audiences might occasionally surprise with bold moves, while edgy brands with conservative audiences must balance their positioning with audience expectations. Remember that even edgy brands with risk-tolerant audiences should still establish clear boundaries and ethical guidelines. The most successful guerrilla marketers know exactly where their line is, and they never cross it. Success comes not from being shocking, but from being authentically surprising in ways that reinforce rather than contradict your brand values. Key takeaways: balancing impact and integrity. As we conclude our exploration of guerrilla marketing and controversy, let's crystallize the most important lessons that will guide your marketing decisions going forward. First, not all publicity is good publicity, especially in our modern digital landscape. The long-term brand damage from controversial marketing can far outweigh short-term attention gains. Unlike previous eras when negative publicity might be quickly forgotten, today's digital permanence means controversial moments can haunt brands for years. The temporary boost in awareness rarely compensates for lasting damage to brand trust and reputation. Second, know your risk profile before pursuing any unconventional tactics. Assess your brand positioning, audience values, and organizational risk tolerance before considering guerrilla marketing approaches. This assessment isn't just about what you want to communicate, but about what your audience is prepared to hear and how your stakeholders will react to controversial associations. Third, plan for the worst-case scenarios in every campaign. Always have comprehensive contingency plans and crisis management strategies prepared before launching unconventional campaigns. The brands that survive controversial marketing disasters are those that anticipated problems and prepared responses in advance. Never launch a guerrilla campaign without knowing exactly how you'll respond if things go wrong. Fourth, measure beyond the buzz when evaluating campaign success. Evaluate campaign effectiveness based on sentiment analysis, brand perception changes, and actual conversion impacts, not just reach metrics and social media engagement. A campaign that generates massive awareness but damages purchase intent is ultimately a failure, regardless of how viral it becomes. As our closing thought reminds us, the most effective guerrilla marketing creates memorable moments that align with your brand values, generating attention without compromising integrity. This balance between impact and integrity represents the ultimate goal of sophisticated marketing strategy. The brands that master this balance don't just create campaigns, they create lasting relationships with audiences who trust them to be both surprising and authentic. In an attention economy that rewards the bold, the wise marketer chooses their battles carefully, ensuring that every risk taken serves not just immediate visibility goals, but long-term brand-building objectives. Thank you for joining me in this exploration of guerrilla marketing's opportunities and pitfalls. Remember, the goal isn't to avoid all risks, but to take calculated risks that strengthen, rather than compromise, your brand's long-term value.